Welcome to the Promethean channel. My name is Aurora, and for those of you who are new, who have just come onto the scene of this channel, welcome, and welcome back to those of you who have been here before. It is important to understand that the information that is discussed on the Promethean channel is very information rich and dense. Therefore, the material in itself takes time to process. It is all based on a metaphysical analysis. I've been doing this over a decade now. For those of you who have been with me from the beginning, thank you very much for you who have been there in support of this channel all this time. On this channel, we investigate, explore a lot on philosophical ideas. I give philosophical insights. We deconstruct many belief systems. Analysis is done through metaphysics. And we look at science symbols, ideologies, and deep dives into esoterica and exoterica, and so much more. The channel is not about New Age material. The channel is purely metaphysical in its investigation, so therefore all the information is discussed on that term, or in that way. The analysis is done through those things. I did in-depth, deep discussions, deep reviews on many materials for a long time. It's also most certainly not quantum physics or mysticism either. So the information is raw and undiluted, because that is just how you want to know about the information, straightforward and direct. I cover occult literatures, reviews. I give my reviews on it. I decode symbolism with you, for you, and we clear up a lot of spiritual disinformation. Esoteric philosophy and metaphysical frameworks are also used through cognitive and energetic experiences. So the content is dense and it is controversial at times, and I am unapologetic in how I give critique on the information in itself. And this allows you to help yourself to become empowered in focusing on what really matters for you. The information that we will be discussing today relates a lot about the understanding of metacognition, or metacognisis, or metacognosis, which is really the ability to be able to describe your inner experience while being able to observe it as if, and having the cognition to be able to analyze it. So metacognition is the ability to perceive your own emotions or thoughts objectively, and this is a very important tool to have when you listen to the material that I discuss here on this channel. So there is a new series that I'm beginning. The series is not going to be as lengthy as most of the material that I've presented, although I know that many of you, as I've always advised, to listen to this stuff over a period of time so that you are getting familiar with the information itself. So what I'm introducing is something called the first principle, and this will also be part of a course which I will be building over the next few months based on the information. It really is touching up on all the material that is already on this channel, and perhaps some new information that comes along. But I intend to bring the information to you in a much more simplified, shorter version, so that you are able to understand it, and also to accommodate the new people that come here on this channel. So the first principle in this new series, and before I continue, I want to say thank you for all of you who have been wondering to know how I am and what I've been doing. And yes, I've been busy building a framework for the next part of this leg with the Promethean channel in itself. So in this new series, we will be examining foundational and advanced materials, as you know, based on some of the stuff that you've seen and some of the things that you may have forgotten. And through that, we will be giving it a bit of a polishing up to be able to see what we're looking at. How can we apply the information in itself to our daily use? And this is where the course will come in. We will also be investigating the things that have been allowing certain systems to take place in the way that it's been going. In this episode, we're going to be focusing on consensus and realities. So you are reminded to take note that you don't just scroll to this video. You didn't just scroll to come here. You didn't just swipe to arrive at this video. You actually gave some form of choice where you allowed yourself to enter the space in where this video is being presented. And this means I'm asking you to question, did you just wander here, or were you inspired to come here? Was this your own thoughts of doing that? Or were you enticed by something else that made you want to come to this particular video in itself? And then I want to remind you, have you ever opened your phone and you've scrolled past certain celebrity scandals or some political mayhem that happens here and there, as the system loves to do? And how much has this been affecting you on a deeper emotional level? How many AI deepfake stuff have you seen and become emotionally tangled up with? And were these things there for this reason, where you did this out of your own choice, or were you coerced in some way to fall for it, like you may have fallen for many other things? This means you have to question the following statement, that it is not a coincidence or any other way in how you're looking at it. Perhaps some of you may have been inspired by your spirit from within, but overall, majority people are often being led into having to make a deeper internal consent or consensus to be able to look at that material in the first place. You have to accept what you're looking at or what you want to look at before it actually comes towards you. So what I'm saying to you is that the system has become intuitively keyed into your consciousness, because there's been a lot of information being looked at to coerce or to create a subjected belief for people to fall into. That is the same game, the same cards are always being played. The people that set the system up in the way that they do are people that are solidly investing in ideologies that are supported by energies or forces or egregores. And that is what the war is all about. It is a war of consensus. It is a war of having to decide what you're going to choose to look at and what not. Because as we speak, everything is being flooded with a lot of information that is trying to get people to go to certain directions or doorways. And so today we unravel the architecture of consensus in itself, and how realities are actually formed by or constructed by that particular energetic agreement. Some of it may have been made by your own consent, that you agree to go into to look at this stuff and then go, oh my gosh, did I just look at that? Was that just what I thought it was? Blah, blah, blah. Think bubbles. So consensus is when we are understanding that there is a premise of a particular reality that needs to be built. And so when I say the reality that needs to be built, I want you to go away pull yourself away from the ideas that we're looking at, the New Age concept that there are new planets being built or formed or terraformed. I want you to move away from the imagination where you're being led to understand that New World Order is going to happen on such and such a day, or when certain events happen as they are, that is the day when rapture takes place, type of thing. I want you to move away from those ideas or those beliefs in your thoughts. So we're looking at understanding how reality is formed. Reality is formed through a metaphysical experience where you're looking at something. I'm simplifying it really very deeply here for you. Where you look at something, you believe in that thing, and that is a thing that you start to focus on to build your life accordingly towards, or you feel that your life is taken over or built for you in a particular accordance. And that is consensus. And consensus requires a choice that is made in order to accept a particular reality that is being played out. And an example of this is looking at how the memes go around with Trump and in South Africa, the South African president. And in this way, there's a spreading around of information, a lot of deep fake information as well, to create a particular frequency for people to buy into, to give consent to. And I need to explain here that the information that is on the Promethean channel is about exopolitics, which means we're looking at the metaphysical things that are around how politics are being formed as well. So it is not about politics itself, but it's about the energies, what is being used, and how the program is being put together. Because most of these things are created with the intention to draw as many people to them as it's possibly set in place. Any new society, secret society, or whatever you want to call it, requires a sense of energy to fuel the drive. They need supporters, they need subscribers, they need participants, and very much so in the same narrative or the same nature. You're looking at egregores that are forces that are inanimated, and some are animated, and you only know about it or see it when you look at a group of people that are all being geared up to a particular frequency, or at a sports stadium when everyone acts in the same way. It's almost mind hive control frequency, and the very same thing you find the reality being shaped in these ways. And so when you go to a sports stadium, for example, and this is not hurting or knocking anybody or criticizing anyone on who are sports fans, but you key into the egregore of the sport itself. When you go into it, you start buying its labels, its brand. You start talking like how that is. You get the merchandise. You buy the merchandise that marks you as the supporter for, or brands you as a supporter for that particular egregore or sport egregore. Could be anything. And the same applies for politics and whatever else you can think of. Essentially, an egregore is an energy made up of forces that are giving it consent. When there's a greater consent, it becomes a bigger egregore or a force of energy. And it is that force of energy that we're discussing today in relation to consenting to it to take you over by you leaning into it. You can either be subjected to it by means of coercion, or you could be entering into that agreement with that particular thing or that energy through giving consent to it But at the most, your mind, body, soul, and spirit needs to give an exception, needs to accept the contract that is being created for you to accept that influence over your life. And you can see it everywhere in the world. I mean, you have to fill in forms and things. You have to scan your eyes, your fingers, and whatever. You have to give blood. You have to drive this and wear that and walk like this and smoke there and eat there and all of those things. Whatever it is, these are all things that are created in a way by people to get people to come towards them. So this is not an unfamiliar thing for most of you. It is important that we're looking at it again, because this is the same pattern of energy that has been carrying on for a long time, and the egregores are just changing their shapes. If you don't know what an egregore is, I'd advise you to go and look around at Mark Stavish's books on the egregore itself. I think he gives a very good description of what it is overall. I've just been simplifying it for you. For most of you know about it, know what it is too, and be mindful that that is what you're basically dealing with right now, or have always been dealing with. We're just simplifying the information for you to be able to understand that in order to allow an egregore or a force of energy such as group to take control over you, it needs you to consent to it. If we go further out, if we look at it in a bigger picture, if we step back and we use our metacognition, in other words, we can observe the information and how it is being played out in mostly everything. There is not one thing that it does not have an impact on. And I've discussed these impacts in numerous videos where I've described that you're looking at the wicked agency. All these things are all part of the same consensus egregoric fields of energy. And these fields of energy are either destructive towards you or they are in support of you. But at all times, these fields of energy require you to submit to it in some way. So this is the difference between this channel, which I've always said is a unique channel, because you come here, you decide for yourself, and I'm not going to force you to do anything. You're going to decide it for yourself. I'm not taking responsibility for you. You're taking responsibility for yourself. I'm also not someone that's going to spoon feed you information when it's already all present on this channel either. And I'll tell you directly, because if I do that, it means that you let me take consent over you. And that is why I do not do that. I will answer your questions and things, and you will answer it back, and I will leave it there. I'm not going to go into deeper discussions unless it is something that you are sincerely seeking to know. So, in other words, you are always reminded that you have a free will. And it is your free will that you use to know that you have a choice. In other words, to make the choice to accept certain things or not. In other words, you are reminded of it all the time here. And this is most likely why the channel is not extremely popular either, because a lot of people are lazy. They do not want to take the responsibility for themselves. So the growth of the forces or the egregores become bigger and fatter by having a lot more people that consent to the egregore to control their lives for them by just submitting to certain things. I'm not going to do that today. X, Y, and Z is doing this. I'm just doing this. I'm just letting this happen, blah, blah, blah. Essentially, that is a frequency that is something that plays out a lot. And because of the introduction of this particular subject, we are reminded that we have two types of consensus, or actually three, but one is more sort of there placed for you to accept it or not. It's sort of a light touch, and that one is called the ordinary consensus, where you're accepting things as they are presented, such as news, trends, and social media. And then there's special consensus, which is a non-ordinary contract where a deeper emotional and energy is invested in a particular something. And then there's the coercion, where everyone sits around a table and they've decided that you're the black sheep of the family, and so they've all made the coerced consensus because someone in the family decided that you were the black sheep of the family. So now everybody else has decided in their community, but you're the black sheep of the family. So the majority of that group have perhaps been coerced in, perhaps through violence or threats and whatever you want to look at it. So there's still the exception that happens. And then people say, but I didn't have a choice. I was controlled. I was threatened. My family was threatened that if I didn't vote for that particular party or do that thing or support that gangster, then my family would be unalived. So I didn't have a choice. And I'll tell you that if you believe your life is, you are living your life at the cost of yourself. If you believe that you live your life at the cost of self, you may not agree with me here, but hear me out. Your life will be dictated and determined that you will not have a choice. So in other words, if you buy into, or if you've given consent to the belief of perhaps your forefathers or your family members, and this is right across the board, it doesn't matter who it is that I'm talking about here, this is just an example, that you have to work and earn, and it'll be at the cost of yourself. Yeah, you're gonna get hurt, but you will earn your bread by the sweat on your brow. You have agreed to the consensus of the contract to live in suffering. And that is what that means. You then teach your kids with that same consensus that they or contract that they have to agree to, because dad lived and earned his bread by the sweat of his brow, therefore I must do the same thing. And that means that you have now started to build a small egregore with the surname called Van Tonder or Johnson or whatever. And Johnson is a little egregore now, working at the cost of the self by earning the bread by the sweat on the brow. Belief system. That is called a belief system. Traditions, ideologies, things that people invest emotions into have become something that is called a special consensus, where you give energy to something because you believe in it, because it controls you then at the end of the day. My question to you is, what do you choose to have rulership over you, and do you choose to have rulership over you? And if you choose not to have rulership over you, what do you focus on? So I leave that with you to think on, because this is something that we have to question ourselves. Within that, there is something that we need to focus on, and more on this will come out throughout the next videos that will happen. And so I would advise you to focus on the information that I've presented here. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff mentioned on egregores, etc., etc. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe, and also to click on the notification icon, because if you want to get notified, you'll know it when I post new material. I also post in the information section, that is the community tab as well. So at all times you'll be notified of certain things that are being presented here. I'm going to leave you on that note and let you decide for yourself where you place yourself. Do you have choice? Do you believe you have no choice? And then question yourself, what choices do you believe you've never had? And then you'll understand what you have perhaps consented to in your life. Until next time.